14 preview and predictions. We are going to talk some player, team, coach of the week, non SEC games of the week, SEC games of the week, and then we're going to do something fun. We're going to play a little Heisman or future Heisman draft. We're each going to draft three guys at the end of the show who have a chance to win the Heisman this season. So I'll jump right into it with my team, player, and coach of the week. Starting off with my team of the week is going to be Notre Dame. Beat Syracuse 70-7. Didn't even have an offensive snap, and they had 21 points in this game. Two pick sixes and a punt return. They just dominated this game completely. It was a 49 nothing game at halftime. They scored 21 more in the second half. So, shout out to Notre Dame. And my player of the week is Jeremiah Love. 8 carries, 171 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Found the end zone on 43% of his carries and averaged 20 something yards a carry. Phenomenal outing from him. And then my coach of the week, changing it up a little bit, going with Clark Lee from Vanderbilt. 45-17 win over Kentucky. And this is a Kentucky team that's been playing good football this season, especially since they made the move to Cutter Bowley at quarterback. So shout out to Clark Lee winning in dominant fashion. And really, this was a 45-3 game. Kentucky scored a couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Huge game for Vandy, keeps their playoff hopes alive, and they improved to 9-2. So Kevin, let's hear your team, player, and coach of the week.
So, team of the week is Tennessee. We're going to the swamp and winning by 20 plus. I think it's the first time that they've won in the swamp since 2004, somewhere in that time frame. So, 20 plus years. It's not a place that's been friendly to them, and they didn't just go in and win; they dominated the game. So, big win for Tennessee. Keeps them with a chance to finish their season at 9-3. Sets up a good game with Vandy this weekend. Player of the week, I'm going to go Arch Manning. For a guy that middle of the season was catching a lot of media about being overrated and stuff, he's really played well. Had a good game against Oklahoma, and then struggled against Florida. But after that, he's played really well, especially lately. Vandy was really good. 18 out of 30 this past weekend for 389, averaged 13 yards a pass attempt. Again, seven's the magic number if you're good. So he almost doubled that. 4 TDs. So really good day there. He also had a TD rush and not many rushing yards. And again, leading into this weekend, it's good that he has that momentum going into Texas and Texas A&M. Coach of the week, I'm going to go Dan Lanning. And the reason I'm going to go Lanning is not just the win over USC, but again, they controlled that game. And just the physical style, we saw them go to Iowa and win in a physical game. USC is more physical, but Oregon really showed their physical prowess in this game. So you got to give Lanning credit. I think they're a one-loss team, but they've got some key people out, and they're better. They've improved a lot. So I think you got to give Lanning a lot of credit for their improvement as a team. I would love to see them in Indiana play again. I'm not saying Indiana wouldn't win, but Oregon's playing much better. Sweets, give us your three?
All right, so my coach of the week is Marcus Freeman of Notre Dame. They're 9 straight victories after starting the season 0-2. They beat Syracuse 70-7. In just dominating fashion, and like I said, they're on the cusp of the playoff despite starting 0-2. So if they beat Stanford on Saturday, which by all intents and purposes they should beat Stanford, they're in the playoffs. So after the first 2 weeks of the season, nobody saw that coming. But Notre Dame stayed with it. Jeremiah Love had a great season. CJ Carr has improved game by game as a redshirt freshman quarterback. Defense has gotten better every week, and they're a force to be reckoned with right now. How far that takes them in the playoffs is going to depend on the matchups that they get. But right now, it's tough to find a better who did a better coaching job this weekend than Marcus Freeman. Now, my player of the week is Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia had 484 yards in the air, 5 touchdown passes, 48 rushing yards with a rushing touchdown. He did have 1 pick, as he pointed out in his post-game presser that he was upset about, but he's been dominant. He probably locked himself up an invite to New York. If he doesn't get invited, he's certainly going to be on the list for a lot of the postseason awards. Has led Vanderbilt to heights they've never reached before in football. And it's not that he's a great athletic quarterback or that he's going to go to the NFL and do work or anything. It's just that the kid is a gamer and a winner, and players like Pavia go to show that it's not always about your ability, but sometimes if you just have the heart and guts, you can go in and get stuff done. Not to say that he's not a good athlete; he's a good enough athlete, but by the metric of a dual threat quarterback, he's not that guy. And my team of the week was Vanderbilt. Again, they beat Kentucky 45-17 and kept their playoff hopes alive. And if they beat Tennessee on Saturday, I don't see how they're not in the playoffs. I mean, the playoff committee may have other thoughts about it, but I think at 10-2, Vanderbilt's schedule and the way they've looked all year, they definitely deserve an invite. Where are we going to next, DMAC?
Yeah, so that takes us to Thanksgiving Day. We've got a matchup between Navy and Memphis. Memphis is a 5.5-point favorite in this one. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so this is a big game in the playoff race for the non-power fours. Navy's got an outside shot of getting in there. Navy, North Texas, Tulane out of that American, and then James Madison. Memphis, they've played really well at home. Beat Arkansas at home, beat South Florida at home, scored 17 in the fourth quarter to beat South Florida, and again came from behind in the second half to beat Arkansas also. So they've been very good at home. I'm going to sum this up quickly with 2 stats that mean something to me. Navy is the leading rushing team in the country. Memphis rush defense is ranked 32nd in the country, giving up about 130 yards rushing a game. And then the turnover margin. Memphis is +8 in the turnover margin. I think if you combine turnover margin, home field advantage, and a good rush defense to slow Navy down, I think Memphis will win this game. I think it'll be a close game, maybe inside the 5.5. I'm going to go Memphis 31-23, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was 31-27, something like that. D-Mac, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm I love this Navy run game. Averaging 310 yards a game on the ground. Yeah, that's an unbelievable stat. So I'm rolling with the midshipmen in this one.
You're going to chaos.
Yeah, I think they're going to the playoffs, but I think they're going to lose a game before the playoffs and after they accept their invite to the college.
You're going that Army upset. You're going chaos. I got you.
Going some chaos, but they control the time of possession so well. I do think this is going to be kind of a low-scoring game. I'm going to go 27-21. Navy gets it done. What do you think, Sweets?
I'm on your boat, DMAC. I'm going Navy 24-21. I think that their discipline at the end of the day wins the day here. That they're, obviously the clock control with their running game and stuff. Their defense is going to come out and get stops when they need to, and they're going to go ahead and win this game. That should put them in the playoff. I didn't look at the scenarios whether if they won they could lose to Army and not be a part of it, but yeah, I like Navy on Saturday against Memphis. Where does that take us next?
Yeah, that takes us to 12th ranked Utah team facing off against Kansas as an 11.5-point favorite over the Jayhawks. What are your thoughts on this one, Sweets?
I like Utah plus 11.5 or minus 11.5. I've got them at 13.5. I don't like them as much at 13.5, but I do still like them. I actually like Utah 35-21 in this game. I think that their quarterback, Dampier's is done a great job this year. Wayshawn Parker's had 4 consecutive 100-yard games in the backfield. He's got 6 rushing touchdowns on the year. He's playing a lot better. Their defense is starting to come around a little bit. However, their star defensive end, John Henry Daly, is supposed to miss the game due to a season-ending lower leg injury. So that hurts Utah. He had 11.5 sacks on the year. So that kind of stings them. Kansas's defense has has a lot to step up to, because Utah's rushing game is number 2 in the country. I think they average about 280 on the ground. So that's going to be a lot for Kansas to ask to stop, and they're not going to be able to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Utes by 14 here. What's your thoughts on this one, Kev?
Yeah, I like Utah in a big way in this game. Kansas is kind of disappointed after about the 4th, 5th week of the season. Give me Utah 38-17. There's rumors that Whittingham is going to retire, and this could be his last game in that stadium. And I think they'll come out and play really hard to get behind that and finish the season 10-2 and send him out on a high note if he chooses to do that. So he definitely is a legend. Probably they'll name the field after him at some point. I think they'll get this win for him. D-Mac, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I love this Utah team. Um, they're really good defensively, very good offense too. I do want to point out though, Jalen Daniels at Kansas, he's put together a quietly good season for a 5-6 team. 2,400 yards passing, 21 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. When there's a team sitting at 5-6, you don't see that all that often. Good quarterback play. So I do like Utah though, probably somewhere in that 38-24 range. I do think they cover. So that brings us to Arizona State. What are your thoughts here, Kevin?
Yeah, so this is an interesting matchup, in my opinion. It's at Arizona State. Arizona is actually a 1.5-point favorite. They've kind of went under the radar. Both teams are 8-3 in this game, so one's going to go 8-4, one's going to go 9-3. Arizona's quietly had a good season. Their defense is 21st in the country. They give up 309 yards a game, and they've also been good in the turnover margin. I believe they're +8 in the turnover margin, and Arizona State's +1. When you look at the stats, third down conversions and things like that, a lot of this really looks Arizona's way. Arizona State's 115 in third down conversion on offense, and Arizona State's 36th on defense, only giving up 34%. And the quarterback advantage with Jeff Sims against Noah Fafita for Arizona is a big advantage to Arizona, in my opinion. Fafita has right at 2,700 yards, 25 TDs, 5 interceptions, 64% completion. Arizona is very balanced in their offense. Both teams average over 400 yards. Both teams have got good offenses. I just think the defense advantage to Arizona, and I don't have a lot of confidence in Jeff Sims, even though they've won since he's been at the quarterback. I like the quarterback advantage, the turnover margin, and that third down percentage advantage for Arizona. So I'm going to go Arizona in a very close game and what will be viewed as an upset, 27-24. I still think Dillingham's done a great job winning without Levitt. And to me, he's the one advantage that would make me want Arizona or want to pick Arizona State would be Kenny Dillingham as a coach. But I just think Arizona's a little better team with a quarterback advantage. Sweets, what's your thoughts?
I think this is a very even matchup. They play for the Territorial Cup. I don't know if y'all knew that. It's certified as the oldest trophy in college football by the NCAA. So they're playing for the 115th Territorial Cup here in Arizona. I like Arizona State to pull it out. They're still playing. They still got a shot to make the Big 12 playoff title game with a little help, whereas Arizona does not. So I think those guys got a lot to play for. They got a taste of it last year. It's their biggest rival, so both teams are going to be hungry. There'll be no excuses there. But yeah, go ahead and give me Arizona State in a close one, 27-24 Arizona State. and they don't end up making it into the championship game. But they do close out with the Territorial Cup win, which should put them into a decent bowl come late December, early January. What are your thoughts on this one, DMAC?
Yeah, this if Sam Levitt was playing, I would love Arizona State here.
Yes.
I love Arizona's plus 12 in the turnover margin, putting them in the top 5. So for that reason, I'm going to roll with Arizona here in a close one. I'm going to go 24-21. I think there's some outside news or outside noise with Sam Levitt's camp saying, he's going to explore some opportunities. Who knows if Kenny Dillingham's going to be at Arizona State next year. So I think there's just a little too much noise for the Sun Devils this week. So that brings us to what might be the biggest game of the week. The Ohio State Buckeyes travel to Michigan to face off against the Wolverines. Ohio State's a 5.5 point favorite in this one. Couple fun facts. Ohio State's 8-2 against the spread this year, while Michigan's 4-7. So there's a lot to like about this Ohio State team. They've got the number one defense in the nation, number one against the pass on defense, number two against the run, and they are only giving up 7.6 points per game. Over on offense, they're a top 25 offense, averaging 440 yards, top 12, scoring 38 points a game. They're running for 170, passing for 270 a game. Julian Sayin has been phenomenal. 2,800 plus passing yards, 27 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and a 79.4% completion percentage.
Hmm.
That completion percentage is like a video game. I've never seen a college quarterback have as much accuracy as he's had this year. It does help when you're throwing to someone like Jeremiah Smith, though, who's got 10 touchdowns and a little over 900 yards on the year. Then we flip over to Michigan. They're averaging 420 yards of total offense, 225 on the ground. Their defense, though, is averaging 208 yards passing per game, which puts them outside of the top 50. But scoring defense, they're only giving up about 18 points per game. I do want to quickly talk about Michigan's schedule, though. They lost to Oklahoma early in the season, and they lost to USC, like week 5 or 6. Outside of those games, Washington is the only team they've played out of the Big Ten with a winning record. And they did beat Washington by 17, but they've played some of the worst teams in the Big Ten to get to be a 9-2. So I know this is a big game, a lot riding on it for both teams. Ryan Day has not been great against Michigan in his time with Ohio State, but I think Ohio State makes a statement in this one against Michigan. 5.5 point line. I'm going to go 38-17, 21 point win for the Buckeyes this week. What are your thoughts, Sweets?
I'm with you. I like Ohio State big here this weekend. I'm Vegas is building pyramids in the desert for a reason, and so they know more than I do. But I just feel like Ohio State's gonna show up and show up big this weekend. I like Ohio State 35, Michigan 24. I think the receiving trio of Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Ennis is just too much for Michigan's secondary. And then when you throw in tight end Max Clare, there and saying throwing to him, it's just an insane offense. So give me the Buckeyes. Give me the Buckeyes by 11. Where are you going, Kev?
Yeah, I like Ohio State in this game. I do think it'll be that Michigan will slow Ohio State down a little bit offensively. And I think it'll be a closer game, a more competitive game through the game than probably what people think. But I'm going to go 27-17, Ohio State. But I do think Michigan will keep them out of the 30s. and I think it'll like I say, it'll be very competitive and hard fought. Michigan plays physical. I agree with you, DMAC. I think their overall record is a little bit clouded because they've not played competition. I do also think that they've gotten better during the year, and Underwood's gotten better. And I think they'll get enough first downs to keep some time of possession. I'm not saying they're going to win the time of possession battle, but I think they'll keep the game a little lower scoring. I think they'll keep Ohio State out of the 30s.
All right, so that brings us to Miami traveling to Pitt. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this one? Miami is a 6.5 point favorite here.
Yeah, so this is a big game in the ACC grand scheme of things. Pittsburgh's playing for a chance to play in that conference championship. Virginia, Pitt, SMU. Virginia and SMU had the inside shot, and it's at Pitt. Again, Miami's a 6.5 point favorite. When you look at the stats, Miami's got the 12th ranked defense, and you're playing against a freshman quarterback. Miami is 14th with a +9 uh, turnover margin. And so you look at a lot of stats and you think, man, Miami should win this game. Pittsburgh's also 124th in red zone defense. Again, Miami should win this game. Miami's red zone offense is ranked ninth. Um, Cristobal's had his two eggs this year, and I really went into this game thinking Pitt would probably win this, and again, the weather's probably going to be a little cool too. But when I just look at the matchups, I just can't pick Pittsburgh in this game. I do think Miami, just their overall talent, red zone offense, 12th ranked defense, time of possession, they average 33 minutes a game. You take those two games that they lost out against SMU, which is an overtime, in Louisville. They've played a lot of good games this year. I don't buy into their talk about the playoffs, but and again, Pittsburgh starting a freshman quarterback who has played well. But I like Miami to win this game, 27-20. That's just my thoughts. I just think their overall talent level is better, and they're better at some key spots. Sweet, what about you?
Yeah, I like Miami. I like Miami Saturday by 10ish. I'm gonna go 31-21. I think that Carson Beck steps up in this game. Malachi Tony had 2 touchdowns last week, and I think that he's going to show up again big this week. Pittsburgh's led by their freshman quarterback Mason Heinchel. I hope I pronounced that right. And I don't see him pushing it past Miami's defense. So despite what Bob is typing as we speak here, we like the Sweets triumvirate likes Miami here this weekend. What are your thoughts on this one, D-Mac?
Yeah, Miami has all the talent in the world on this team. The one key stat that I love is the turnover margin, where they're +9. But in games where Carson Beck is throwing interceptions, they are way down. And I think this is a game where the Pittsburgh defense, the way that they play tough football, there's a chance to cause some havoc to that Miami offense, especially in the pass game. So I'm rolling with the dogs here at home. They got beat last time they were at home in a big game. I think they're ready to bounce back and eliminate Miami from playoff contention. So give me Pitt to win. I'm going to go 27-21 in this one. So that
Miami got you last week now there, D-Mac.
no, they still hey, Virginia Tech still covered. That
in the grand scheme of things, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, that's 17.5. It was only a 17-point game.
The hook got you a victory.
So that brings us to UCF and BYU. What are your thoughts in Mormon country here, Sweets?
Well, I think the Mormons are fired up to have a chance to be in the Big 12 championship and get into the playoffs here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Fighting Mormons to win big against UCF this weekend. I didn't see the line on the game. I was pulling it up and it didn't pop up for me. So what's the line on this one, DMAC?
17 and a half.
17 and a half. Yeah, I like the Bear. I like the Bear to go full on Grizzly this weekend. I like BYU 38, UCF 14. I think that BYU is playing good ball right now. Beat Cincinnati, held serve like they had to, and are continuing to try to do what they can to get into the Big 12 title game and playoff. I think they do that by beating UCF this weekend handily. Like I said, Bachmeier had a great season as a freshman. BYU's defense starting to play better, and they've got a lot to play for here. So I like the Cougs in this one. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Yeah, I like BYU. UCF almost got beat by a terrible Oklahoma State team on their home field last week. Oklahoma State led in the fourth quarter, 14-7, and BYU or UCF scored late to win that game. So BYU's got a lot to play for. I mean, they're ranked 11 in the playoff poll, and so they've still got an outside shot of getting in. So I think they're going to go into UCF. Their defense will hold UCF to probably about 10 points, and BYU will execute well offensively. I'm going 31-10 BYU. I don't think this game's going to be close. D-Mac, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. BYU's plus 10 in the turnover margin, which puts them top 10. UCF ranks 88th at -2. Bear Bachmeier has been one of my favorite freshman quarterbacks to watch all season. Kid's going to be really good over the next couple of years in college football. I think BYU wins really big here. I'm going to go 41-14. Huge win for them here at home and gets them to the Big 12 championship game. So that brings us to Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State. Not as attractive as some of the games we talk about, but this is a game where the winner of this game goes to the Conference USA Championship to most likely face Kennesaw State. And I know we're LSU guys, so we saw this Western Kentucky team in full force this past week. They averaged 407 yards a game on offense. They really kind of run an air spread power run. It's their offense kind of puzzles me the way they did it on the first drive. They can definitely air it out, but they can also run up the middle too. They're scoring 30 points a game. Their defense is only giving up 22 points a game. I think that was like 26 last week. So their defense is improving each week. They're not very good in the turnover margin, though, at -4, and Jacksonville State is +8 in the turnover margin. Western Kentucky, though, is still a 2.5-point favorite on the road. And after watching them last week, I got to roll with Western Kentucky here. I think they cover the 2.5. I think they're going to win this one. I'm going to go 34-27, 7-point win. So who do you like, Sweets?
I like Western Kentucky as well. Give me the passing offense over the rushing offense in this one. Western Kentucky leads the conference in passing, and Jacksonville State leads the conference in rushing. Western Kentucky actually is a stout team. I mean, I'm not saying that just because they made LSU look bad. They're not a bad team. They stood up physically to LSU, who had superior talent at all 11 positions, and showed a lot. I think that they're going to go ahead and win the game handily and represent in the conference championship game. Give me Western Kentucky 31, Jacksonville State 17. Who you got, Kev?
All right, so I've been to a few games at Jack State over the years, and that's a tough place to play. They really support that team. That campus is they get behind football and they've got good players. I think Western played up last week, and I think we're going to see them have a little bit of a letdown this week. And then also, I know that game was close, but at least we not forget how bad that LSU offense was, being 3 out of 16 on third downs. It's one thing to be bad, but you had 16 third downs. Your defense gave you plenty of possessions. So I think we got to look at that. I don't know how good Western's offense really totally is. I like Jack State at home with a chance to play them in the playoffs. They've had a pretty good run over the last few years. I know Rich Rod's not there anymore. Give me Jack State 27-24.
All right, so that brings us to the Oregon-Washington game. What are your thoughts on this one, Sweets?
All right, so Oregon is playing for everything this weekend. They're number 6 in the country, so if they win the game, they're locked into a playoff berth. Playing Washington. I don't know if there's a name for this rivalry or whatever it is, but it doesn't much matter because Oregon is going to beat the brakes off of Washington this weekend. I don't know why what's the line on this one, DMAC? I'm having trouble. It's not adding lines to this for whatever reason.
It is 6.5. Oregon's the favorite.
It sounds like they're giving money away there, DMAC. It sounds like they're literally giving it away there. I like Oregon big in this one. Like I said, I like Oregon. Give me Oregon 31-17 over Washington. I think that Dante Moore has been fantastic. He's got better as the season's progressed. Their defense is definitely, hell to deal with. And I just think that they're too much for Washington across the board. I will say that Washington's quarterback Williams had a pretty good year. He's got just under 2,800 yards passing and 19 passing touchdowns. Coleman is their leading running back with around 650 yards on the ground. At the end of the day, they just don't have enough for Oregon. The name of the game is by the way, called the Cascade Clash. I don't know if there's a cute little waterfall that with the water traipse down a rock or something that they get at the end of the game for winning this or whatever, but they should have something like that for the winner. And Oregon will proudly take that back to Eugene this weekend after roughing up the Huskies 31-17. What are your thoughts on this one, DMAC?
Yeah, I love this team. +6 in the turnover margin. Dante Moore's been really good this year. Noah Whittington's running the ball well. Yeah, they're playing really good football. So I'm with you. I love Oregon in this one. I'm gonna go 35-24. Oregon gets it done on the road and secures a playoff berth. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, I guess you could wonder if Oregon's going to have a letdown because they beat USC and a couple weeks ago they beat Iowa. I don't think they will. I think Lanning's will have them up and playing for an outside shot. If somehow Ohio State were to lose, that Oregon could end up with a rematch against Indiana in that Big Ten championship game. So they got a lot to play for in that. So I think, and I also think, I know Washington has a winning record, but I think when you look at their schedule, they've not fared well against good teams. You referenced earlier they lost by 17, and I think Oregon will win this game by at least 14. Give me Oregon 38-23. So I say 15-point win for Oregon.
Yeah, so that takes us to Virginia Tech, Virginia here. Virginia is an 8.5-point favorite. They are currently in first place in the ACC. As long as they win this week, I believe they would be one of the 2 tiebreakers if there was a tie of 3 teams here. So, I like this Virginia team a lot. They're +4 in the turnover margin. Their opponent, Virginia Tech, is -7 in the turnover margin. Chandler Morris has been serviceable at quarterback, 2,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, but he's completing 67% of his passes. Jamari Taylor has got 917 yards on the ground and 13 scores. So I really like this Virginia team. I took the Hokies last week to cover. This week I'm taking the Cavaliers. Let's go. We're going to go 45-17. Huge win to end the season, the regular season for Virginia here. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, I would love to be able to try to pick Virginia Tech in this game. And this used to be a rivalry that was dominated by Virginia Tech. But I just don't see it this year. They've just not, they've not had a good season, and Virginia has. And I like Virginia's ability to run the ball. And you mentioned Morris and he's done a great job of, keeping them out of turnovers and done a good job of converting third downs and they score. So I like Virginia with their offense in this game, and their ability to run. So give me Virginia 31-20, and they write their ticket to play in that ACC championship game. And hey, maybe Chandler Morris and Diego Pavia will get another year. I think they're both close to AARP age. They play. It seems like they've been playing in college for 10 years. Sweet, your thoughts?
I like Virginia big here. It's funny thing about this game is it's obviously a huge rivalry game. Virginia Tech has won 19 out of the last 20 in this series, which is kind of insane for that's not a rivalry. That's just a one-sided, beat down. But Virginia's going to turn that around this week and win with a vengeance. I like Virginia 48, Virginia Tech 10. I think Virginia has a lot to play for here. They don't like Virginia Tech, and they're gonna release some frustration on the Hokies this weekend. So give me Virginia big and see if they can't continue their season moving forward. Where does that take us next, DMAC?
Yeah, that takes us to SMU at Cal. What are your thoughts on this one, Kevin?
Yeah. So first, let me give a big congrats to Rhett Lashley, who's really brought this team along. Um, he was born and raised in Springdale, Arkansas, played at Arkansas, and he's done a great job at SMU, playing for a chance to win 10 games a season for the third year in a row at SMU. So if they were to win this and win that conference championship game. All right, so down inside the game a little bit here. So the stat I really like for SMU in their favor, there's two of them. Turnovers, again, plus 12 for SMU, Cal -3. SMU also is only gives up 33.9% on third down, and Cal only converts at 38% of their third downs. So to me, that's a big advantage for SMU from a defense to offensive standpoint. When you look at the offenses, Cal averages 23 points a game, SMU 33, and SMU only gives up 19 points a game. So I just think that those numbers bear out big advantage for SMU. Kevin Jennings, really good quarterback. He's a playmaker. Got 24 touchdowns, over 3,000 yards passing. I do like for Cal's freshman, Jerron Kai Sagapatulu. Maybe I got that right. Maybe I didn't. But he's a good quarterback. Yeah, it's close enough for me. Anyhow, he's a really good freshman quarterback and probably end up being in the portal. One individual that I'd like to mention in this game, because to me, since SMU put Tamarian Harden at running back, it's really changed their season. Um, they got hot kind of along that same time. He has over 700 yards rushing on 151 carries, and I think he'll have over 100 yards in this game to finish the season at over 800. I like SMU in this game. The spread started out at 10.5, went to 13.5. I think and Cal fired their coach this week, so I think SMU will win this game. I'm going to go 38-17. They were really good last week against Louisville, and I do not see this as a letdown. I think they go into that ACC championship. If they win here, they will. It'll be them and Virginia, and I think that's what we're going to see. And I look forward to that game. It'll be a really competitive game. DMAC, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like this SMU team. They are one of my favorite teams in the ACC to watch. Rhett Lashley, phenomenal coach. That 13.5 scares me. if I'm just looking at this game blindly, they're plus 12 in turnover margin, Cal's -3. I really love SMU in this one. But I think, anytime a team fires a coach, there's a little bit of a rally with the interim. I think SMU wins this game, but I think Cal shows a lot of fight in this one. I'm going to go 31-24, 7-point win for SMU here, and they get the job done. But I don't think they blow them out. I think Cal's going to show a little fight here. So that brings us to the UNLV Nevada game. Had to throw this one in here. UNLV has a chance to get to 10-2 here. They are a 7.5-point favorite in this game. This UNLV offense is averaging 460 yards a game, 37 points per game. And now when you look at their defense, they are outside of the top 100 in every category. So not a great defense, but they score a lot of points. The Nevada offense is only averaging about 295 yards a game. So on offense, Nevada's outside of the top 75 in every category. Their defense is a little bit better, though. They're only giving up 26 points per game, good for 80th. Only giving up 215 yards in the past game, good for 62nd. UNLV is +7 in the turnover margin, good for top 20. Nevada ranks 130th with -12 here. I know this is a road game for UNLV, but I think Jaden Thomas, their running back, who's got a little over 800 yards and eight touchdowns on the ground, is going to be a key factor in this one. I'm going to go UNLV. I'm going to go 38-17. Huge win on the road, 21 points. They cover with ease. What are your thoughts, Sweets?
I like UNLV big here. I think UNLV like 49-14 or something like that. It's going to be ugly. Nevada just has no answers there. They're 69.7 scoring in the red zone, which leaves them at 131st in the country. And I don't know how many FBS teams there are, but I think the highest I've seen is 132nd. So you can't be much worse than 131st. UNLV scores a lot of points. Mullen's an offensive guy. He knows what he's doing there, and when he's obviously a lot more versed coach in than what he's facing in that conference. So give me UNLV big here, and Mullen's resume is polished up just a little bit more for the job that he's going to be seeking at the end of the year. So whether it leads to anything or not, we'll see. I think that there will be some people who kick the tires on him, and maybe he doesn't get anything bigger until after next year or something. But I don't know that he'll be at UNLV for a long time, but they're going to blow doors on the Wolfpack tomorrow. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Yeah, I like UNLV. Obviously, there's just too much of a talent advantage here on what they've done the last couple of years in the portal. So, yeah, I mean, UNLV 45-17.
Yeah, so that brings us to our last non-SEC game of the week. That is UCLA and USC. Let me pull the line up for you real quick, Sweets. It is a 21.5-point line favoring USC. What are your thoughts, Sweets?
I'll tell you what, don't bet against Nico and give him 21.5. Don't bet against Nico and give him 21.5. You give him a 21.5 point lead, you're going to have a close game on your hands. I think USC wins the game here. That they're just a better team than UCLA. UCLA came to life there for a few weeks after they got rid of Deshaun Foster as coach, but they've went back down after that. USC is 8-3. They're 8-1 in games as a favorite, so they're doing well. Mayev has done a great job at quarterback. I just don't see in any way, shape, or for UCLA makes this game close unless Iamaleava just has a great grain on the ground and through the air. So go ahead and give me Mackay Lemon and the Trojans 45, UCLA 21. Who you got in this one, D-Mac?
Yeah, I'm with you. I like USC in this one. 21 and a half points is a lot of points in a rivalry game. But I like a lot of the things USC does. Mavia has been really good this year. Um, USC's not great in the turnover margin at +3, but UCLA is -3 there. So I'm going to roll USC. I'm going to go 38-24, 14-point win for the Trojans. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, like Sweet said, UCLA went on a couple of weeks there where they won games in a row. I think they might have won 3 in a row, but they've lost every game since then. And that high immediately got deflated. The air came out of that balloon quick. I like USC to win this game. I don't know if they'll cover. I'll go 31-17 USC, but I think USC wins this game. They just got USC's a really good all-around team this year. They at the end of the season, they're going to be one of the better 9-3 teams. I'm not going to say they're the best 9-3 team potentially, because that would probably go to Texas. But USC is right up there among the best teams that could end up 9-3.
Did you just call an upset at 9-3 for Texas this week?
I might have. We'll cross that bridge.
So that does bring us into our SEC games. First game up is an 11 a.m. game on Friday. The historic Egg Bowl, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Ole Miss is a 7.5-point favorite. What are your thoughts here, Kevin?
Yeah, so there is no rivalry that one team hates another team so badly, and that's Mississippi State and their passion against Ole Miss. Obviously, it's a big rivalry for both teams, but trust me, Mississippi State absolutely hates Ole Miss. There would be nothing more that they would love to do than to potentially blow up Ole Miss's playoff chances here in the whole Lane Kiffin saga and that. And it's at Starkville, so the passion will be there. The cowbells will be rolling. 11 o'clock, they will fill that stadium, and the passion will be strong. The things that when you get into the game, Mississippi State's defense is not one of the better defenses in the country, and Ole Miss's offense is third, 493 yards a game. So when the passion and everything calms down, they used to say that passion and emotion means something till you get hit in the mouth. Sweet, you understand that being an ex-boxer, and I think that's where we're going to go in this game. I think once you get into the second quarter and this game settles down, Ole Miss's ability to run the ball, 188 yards a game that they rush, mixed in with the passing that they can do, I think is just going to be too much for Mississippi State to keep up with. Ole Miss's defense, at the beginning of the season, people were talking about how bad their defense was. They've quietly improved, and they actually are 30th in total defense now, only giving up 323 yards a game. Another thing where that factors in is Mississippi State's 399 on total offense, so they're not in the one of the. They're a good offense, but they're not one of the top offenses over 400 yards. So again, those things. Mississippi State 75th in third down conversion on defense. Again, that's another thing. Ole Miss is 24th at 46% on theirs, and so and then Ole Miss is both teams are +3 in the turnover margin. So, but I just think Ole Miss is going to control the game, time of possession. That's another category that Mississippi State's not good at. Their overall offense, quarterback, Blake Shapen for State and Trinidad Chambliss. I think Chambliss is better in that and just his versatility. Big advantage, to that Ole Miss running game, Kawan Lacey. Even though, Mississippi State does have good running backs. That's probably, to me, the strength of their team. I just think Ole Miss is too much all around in the well-roundedness of this team. I think they'll win this game and lock up a playoff spot at 11-1 in a very competitive game. But I'm going to go Ole Miss 34, Mississippi State 27. Sweets, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, this is, there's been so much talk about the Kiffin and the coaching search and all that jazz that the game's been kind of put on the back burner. I think at the end of the day, there are two things that stand out for me. One is Ole Miss is on the cusp of their first ever 11-win season, as well as a lock for a playoff berth if they win this game. And the second thing that stands out to me is Mississippi State's inability to stop any SEC offense with a pulse. They've given up 40 plus in 3 of their 4 last SEC games. I don't see them stopping Ole Miss's offense. Chambliss and company's just way too much for Mississippi State. If this is Kiffin's last game in Ole Miss, he's going to go out with a bang. Give me Ole Miss 45, Mississippi State 21. Who do you got, D-Mac?
Yeah, this is going to be a good game. Mississippi State's fighting to become bowl eligible with a win here. Ole Miss is playing for a home playoff game. Yeah, then this is a rivalry. I have never been to the Egg Bowl. I've been to a game for this, but this is one of a few games that I would really like to go to as far as rivalry weeks. Michigan, Ohio State's on my list of games to go to, but I probably number 2 is an Ole Miss Mississippi State game, specifically in Starkville. They'll have the cowbells going, early that morning. But I'm with you guys. I think Ole Miss is just too much. Trinidad Chambliss has been playing really well. Kewan Lacey, and you guys may not like what I'm about to say, but he is, in my opinion, the best running back in the SEC. And I know Missouri's got a really good one over there, but I like Kewan Lacey a lot. So I think he's the best in the SEC. 7.5 points scares me though in this one. As good as Ole Miss is, I think Mississippi State's gonna fight all game. This is historically a 1-score game in this rivalry game. So I'm gonna go Ole Miss 31, Mississippi State 27. Ole Miss wins, gets their home playoff game, but Mississippi State hangs in there in this one. So that brings us to a little Georgia showdown. Georgia and Georgia Tech. This is a 13.5 point line in favor of the Bulldogs. What are your thoughts, Sweets?
Clean old-fashioned hate is the name of this rivalry. This is going to be a little different because Georgia Tech moved the game from Bobby Dodd to Mercedes-Benz. The reason they did that, obviously, money. They were guaranteed, I believe it was $10 million was their financial guarantee that they got to move the game. So say they took it because that's a lot of money to put in one's financial program. Back to the game though. So Georgia Tech has still got an outside shot at making the playoff. I don't see them getting there. They've had a great season. Haynes King's been a do-it-all quarterback, and he might be one that could backdoor his way into a New York City invite. He's got over 2,500 passing yards on the season, almost 900 rushing yards. He could end up with over 1,000 rushing yards with a big game against Georgia. I do believe Georgia wins the game. I think that they're just their Jimmys and Joes are there's a big advantage with Georgia and Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech is coached well. I love what Key's doing with the program. At the end of the day, I think Georgia just has a little too much for the Texans in this one. What did you say that line was? 13.5?
13.5.
Yeah, I don't think Georgia covers though. Give me Georgia 31, Georgia Tech 24. They keep it close. They hang around, but Georgia wins the game. What are your thoughts on this one, Kev?
Yeah, man, I was really looking forward to this game about a month ago, and I really thought it would be a nail biter. The Georgia Tech defense, though, has just hit a skid, and they've just can't seem to get it back together defensively. And then along that same time frame, Georgia's offense has gotten a lot better and very balanced. Georgia's offense, one of the better offenses in the SEC at this point, quietly done. I mean, I say that because no, they're not getting a lot of press about what they're doing with Stockton and the running game. So, Georgia could have a little letdown and keep this game, maybe within 10. But I really like Georgia to win this game, 41-27. Haynes King does a lot, but he struggled too with turnovers here some in the last few weeks, and so I think Georgia comes out. I think they're on a mission. They want to get back into the final, that top four. They want to stay in that top four ranking and get a bye and compete in that elite group for a national championship. And I think Kirby deep down thinks that this team has a shot. Certainly, Ohio State's one of the best teams, but I think if you were to poll most people right now, Georgia's the best team in the SEC with an outside shot of winning it all.
What do you think about this one, D-Mac?
Yeah, so I'm with you guys. I like the Georgia Bulldogs in this one. Brent Key, great coach, but you can't coach talent, and that's where Georgia has the heavy edge here is the talent that they have. Gunnar Stockton, another quarterback who's kind of quietly put together a good year, 2,500 yards, 19 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, almost a 72% completion percentage. I think Georgia wins this one big. I'm going to go 45-24. They cover in this one, and they are sitting at 11-1 and just kind of waiting around to see what happens with some of the other games as to if they're playing in an SEC championship or not. So Georgia's really good. So that brings us to the Lone Star Showdown, Texas A&M and Texas. This game is a 2.5-point favorite for Texas A&M. They are playing this game in Austin. Let me see. Geez, I'm looking at these teams against the spread this year. Texas is 2-8 against the spread this season. But no, Texas's offense has been much improved the last few weeks. Arch Manning's coming off a 6-touchdown game in which he threw for 4, ran for 1, and caught a touchdown pass as well. Their run defense is really good, only giving up about 92 yards a game. That's good for 7th in the nation. And only giving up 335 yards, which puts them in the top 40, and only giving up 20 points a game. This Texas A&M offense, though, has been good all year except for maybe one half of football when they played South Carolina, averaging 465 yards a game, good for 15th. They're scoring 38 points a game, puts them in the top 10. The Texas A&M defense is only giving up 301 yards a game, 183 passing, 118 on the ground. Texas A&M though has struggled a little bit with turnovers, -5 in the turnover margin. Texas is top 10 with +10. Marcel Reed, 20 almost 2,800 passing yards, 25 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. KC Concepcion, 830 yards, receiving 9 touchdowns. This is going to be a good game. Texas needs a win to have a chance to get into the college football playoff, or to improve their chances to getting in. Texas A&M basically has it locked up at this point. I'm still rolling with the Aggies and Marcel Reed in this one. Give me the Aggies 24-17 on the road. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, so really good game in Austin, and over the years, as our friend Bob gives the horns down sign, over the years, A&M is one of those teams that can't seem to get past Big Brother. They love to put themselves at the equivalent of Texas, and this year they probably have the better team. That being said, they're playing in Austin, and you got to get past that tradition. Um, and I just don't know that they can. But let me say a few things about the game. Marcel Reed is, to me, in the top 3 or 4 candidates to win the Heisman. And I think this game, and if they win and they go in the SEC championship, if he were to win the next 2 games and play very well, I think he automatically catapults to the lead to win the Heisman. And I like that play. I played a little bit on that play, so I'm going to say there's a good chance he does that. Um, but I'll also say this: I like Texas. I like the way Manning's playing. Um, Texas defensively has given up some points the last few weeks, but Colin Simmons has been a real game changer on defense for them, with sacks and pressures and causing turnovers in that aspect of things. And Arch has just been really really good the last few weeks. I think he's going to carry that. I think Texas will play up in this game. I like Texas to win this game. I'm going to go 34-27 Texas. I think Reed will play well, but I just think Texas will play well offensively. I think they'll get off to a hot start. They were really good at home against Vandy, got off to a hot start, and they played a full game against Arkansas. I know Sarkisian was upset in that Vandy game the way that they let Vandy come back in the fourth quarter. They didn't do that against Arkansas, and I think Texas is primed for this game and ready to go. 9-3, chance for the playoffs. They win this game, they'll be one of 2 teams, or excuse me, they will be the only team. They'll be the only team to have 2 wins over playoff teams, and a loss to Ohio State. Man, that's going to be hard to keep them out of the playoffs because if you were to penalize them for losing to Ohio State on the road, nobody's going to schedule those tough early games. So I think they're going to cloud it up. I'm not saying they're going to get in, but I think they're going to beat A&M and cloud things up. Sweets, what's your thoughts?
A&M has the better team, the better record, and by all accounts, they should win this game. But it would be just the most A&M thing ever to lose it, and that's why they'll lose it.
Yep.
Yeah, I just little brother is little brother, and is always going to be little brother. Now they could win a national championship this year, and I can say like Ohio State did last year, still lost to Michigan, won national championship. I could see that happening this year. I don't see A&M winning national championship, but I could see them losing to Texas and going a long way. So go ahead and give me the Horns, as much as I wish they'd have just like a sinkhole and just swallow up the stadium about the middle of the second quarter.
Yep.
And then, like 2 hours later, everybody pops up and they're all right, but they just call the game a forfeit. I don't want people dead or anything. I just don't like either team. That being said, like I said, I think the Longhorns win this one because Texas A&M just can't stand prosperity. Give me the Shorthorns. Give me the Shorthorns 27, A&M 21, and the NCAA will do all they can to get Texas into the playoff, and I think if Texas wins this game, somehow, some way, they will get in there. I don't see how they should, but I can definitely see that happening. So, where are we going next, D-Mac?
Yeah, so before we move on to the next game, I want to give a shout out to Bob's Garage, who I think has watched every one of our episodes.
Love you, Bob.
Did just get a text from him. He had a baby 12. He and his wife had a baby 12 days ago. They have their little daughter watching the show tonight too. So we've got our youngest listener tonight. So
That's good stuff.
Listen, when those shirts come out, that the first one needs to go to her, the 12-day-old child, and then we'll disperse from there. But she gets the first one.
Oh, little trash talking here too, sweets for you.
After your
I know
pick,
Bob's been personal there. Every team I've picked, he's fired something at me. Who's your team, Bob?
he's throwing
What's your
darts.
angle here? I,
So that brings us to a little bit of a bourbon battle this week. You've got Kentucky and Louisville. Louisville is a 3.5 point favorite. What are your thoughts on this one, Sweets?
Yeah, Louisville is facing some questions in the backfield. Both Isaac Brown and Keyshawn Brown are both questionable for the game at running back for Louisville, which puts them in a bad way as far as their backfield goals. And they've actually had to have a wide receiver and a walk-on fill in at running back for the past few games, so that hasn't helped them. That being said, I still like Louisville in this game. They're a better team. They're a better coach team. And I think that they can still score some points here. What's the line in this one, DMAC?
3.5.
I feel like I've got my wife the kid lock on gambling lines here or something, so I can't see him. I like Louisville to cover the game. I like Louisville something like 31-21 here. The game is at Louisville, I believe, and Miller Moss is his status is up in the air for the week. If he plays, I think they win the game by a couple touchdowns. If not, I think they squeak it out with Deuce Adams. But I like them. Kentucky's been playing better ball recently too, until they ran into Diego Pavia and the machine that is Vanderbilt football. They had played really well the prior 3-4 weeks before that, so they're playing a lot better. But I think that Louisville wants this game a little bit more. The line went from 6.5 to 3.5 here. I don't know what's Kentucky's overall record here? They're trying to get
5-6.
bowl eligible, or they're out of it. Yeah, give me Louisville here by 6, 27-21. What are your thoughts on this one, DMAC?
Yeah, this isn't Vanderbilt that they're playing, and Deuce Knight and Miller Moss are not Diego Pavia.
Who is it?
I like this Kentucky team. Cutter Boley is coming back to Kentucky, which is crazy to me that freshman quarterbacks are having to announce that they're returning to their school for a sophomore season. But he's going to be back. This Kentucky run game is really good. You've got Seth McGowan, Dante Dowdell. They run the ball really well. Louisville is giving up 116 yards on the ground, so top 26 in the country. So they are a good run defense. I just think that Kentucky's offense can find a little bit of success here. They need to get bowl eligible this week. Last chance to do it for the Wildcats. Give me the Wildcats in a close one. I'm going to go 24-21. Kentucky becomes bowl eligible and Louisville drops to 7-5. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, so Mark Stoops is 6-4 in this game, and you got to also consider the first few years he was at Kentucky, his team wasn't very good, and Louisville was when Petrino years when they were a pretty solid team. Louisville won last year. Before that, Stoops had ripped off 5 in a row in this series. So I like Louisville, or excuse me, I like Kentucky going into this game. The SEC, I think is a stronger league. I think that's going to get them. They've improved during the year. Take that game out last week. Other than that, they've played really well. Almost upset Texas at home. I like Cutter Boley, and I think Kentucky's going to pull this game out, especially if Moss misses any time in this game. I like Kentucky 24-20 in this game.
So that brings us to the Clemson South Carolina game. um, South Carolina is a 2.5 point favorite at home over Clemson. What are your thoughts on this one, Kevin?
So first, let me say this: this is the two most disappointing teams in a rivalry game this year. Both teams were hoping to potentially make the playoffs, and only one of these teams is going to go to a bowl game by winning 6 games. So that being said, South Carolina, let's look at how they played over the last month. They had Bama down the last 2.5 minutes, couldn't hold on and win the game. They had A&M down by almost 30 points at the half and somehow found a way to lose that game. And then last week they played Furman and won. Some things that I like in this game from a stat standpoint: South Carolina +7 in the turnover margin. Clemson offensively 33.3% on third down. That's 116th. South Carolina's defense is 45th in the country. So I think Clemson's offense will continue to struggle there a little bit. Another thing that I look at is red zone offense. Clemson is 96 in the country in red zone offense. I think, games at South Carolina, it's still going to mean a lot to them. I think they'll play well, and I think they'll get a complete game here. Again, I think South Carolina is a more physical team. I think Sellers will do just enough, kind of like he did last year. He really carried them last year in a 17-14 win. I think it's going to be a similar score, similar game. Give me South Carolina 20, Clemson 13. B-Mac, your thoughts?
Yeah, this South Carolina team has been in so many games this year. Their offense has definitely struggled at times, but their defense and special teams have kind of been their key to success. They're +7 in the turnover margin. That's top 20. Very rarely will you see a 4-7 team top 20 in turnover margin in the country. So I like South Carolina here. I think Sellers, I don't know if he does enough. I think this defense does enough for them to win this game. So I'm going to go South Carolina 24. Let's see. We're going to go 17, 24-17. Carolina wins. What are your thoughts, Sweets?
Give me Dabo and the fake Death Valley Tigers here. I just think they're a better team. In South Carolina, you brought something up that that stands true. Is South Carolina has found ways to lose all season long. That's the one thing they've been consistent with, is finding ways to lose. They've been in too many games that they've found a way to blow it at the end. I don't think anything changes Saturday in their biggest rivalry game. This is their Super Bowl too, because they're not going to play in a bowl, and Clemson will get a bowl bid whether they win or lose this game. So I just don't think, South Carolina's just had a rough year. It continues Saturday. Give me Clemson 23, South Carolina 14. Where do we go from here, buddy?
Yeah, that takes us to a big Tennessee showdown in Knoxville. Vandy traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee is a 3.5-point favorite. What are your thoughts on this one, Sweets?
This is going to be a great game. The only thing that would have made this game better is if Tennessee came into the game at 9-2 as well, and this was an actual de facto, playoff winning in, losing out game. That being said, Vandy still has a lot to play for here. If they win, that puts them at 10-2, and at 10-2 in the SEC, that's got to get them into the playoff, in my opinion. And I think they do. I think they go into Tennessee and win this game. I think that Vanderbilt's a team of destiny. I'm not saying destiny to win a national championship, but I'm saying to do things that a Vanderbilt football team has never done before. They're going to get to a playoff. They'll probably lose the first game, but like I said, it's going to be really something for them. I think Pavia leads the Commodores to a victory here. It's not going to be an easy game because Nyland is a hell of a tough place to play. I've been to several games there, and it's as loud as one can possibly one's ears can stand. But Tennessee, like I said, Vandy's got a lot to play for. They'll probably never be in this position again. Give me the Commodores Saturday. Give me the Fighting Pavias 31, the Volunteers 27. So not only do they cover, but they win outright. What do you think about this one, Kev?
Well, first of all, you're going to have a tough time with the wife. That's all I'm going to say, picking Vandy in this one. Anyhow, we won't tell her that, okay?
No.
Um,
She knows I'm picking Vandy. If I'd have picked Tennessee, I'd have got a tough time because I'm the mush in the house. If I pick Tennessee or Georgia and they lose, the only reason they lost was because I picked them, not because it sucked or whatever. It was because I picked them. So this was a keep the family happy pick because if Vanderbilt loses, then they just look and say, you missed again. So it's a thinking man's pick.
all right, all right. So, man, this is going to be a good game. And like you said, Neyland can be an electric place at night. And this I really like this game. It's a tough. It's maybe the toughest game for me to pick this weekend. Um, going into last weekend, I thought Vanderbilt was a little better team, and then Tennessee goes on the road and just blows the doors off of Florida, um, and played well on both sides of the ball. And so then that leads me into this game thinking, well, Tennessee may win at home. But, look at how Vandy played last week. Pavia played probably his best game of the year against Kentucky, was just lights out. And I just, so that leads me to believe that they're going to come into this game very prepared, probably play their best game of the year, I think. Tennessee's defense has been shaky this year at times. And so I think that's where I'm going to give the advantage to Vanderbilt in this game. I think Pavia will have a big game. I think he'll open it up in the air early, similar to what they did last week. I think that Texas game where they waited to put the ball in his hands to passing wise, I don't think Vanderbilt will go into this game with that same mindset. I think they'll come out slinging it from the beginning. Tennessee's secondary has been suspect during the year. I think I agree with you. I think Vandy's going to get the win. I'm going to go Vandy 34, Tennessee 28. DMAC, your thoughts?
Yeah, Diego Pavia, I have not always been his biggest fan the last 2 seasons, but what he brings to the Vanderbilt program, you definitely can't dispute that. Nearly 3,000 passing yards, 26 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, 72% completion percentage, and then he's added nearly 700 more yards on the ground. I know, Sweets, you said a second ago, I don't know how you can leave Vandy out if they go 10-2, and I'm taking Vandy with you this week. I think they win. I'm going to go 38-31 in this one. But they're getting left out of the playoff. The most recent rankings just came out. They're still at number 14. So the committee's clearly not giving them any love. They
They don't want him in there.
essentially, yeah, I mean, Vandy has to climb to number 10 to get in because you're going to get, the group of five and the ACC winner in. I just don't see that happening. And I cannot wait to see the social media storm it causes. What will Diego Pavia say when he leads Vandy to 10-2 and gets left out of the playoffs?
And here I can already see this happen. I see Texas beating A&M and getting in at 9-3 over a 10-2 Vandy team because of head to head. The one time that head to head will actually mean something will be this time. Watch. That's my prediction.
That's definitely going to be insane to see how this plays out. So that brings
that argument. That argument for that last spot, if Vandy wins, and let's say A&M wins, could be between Vandy and Notre Dame. You look at Vandy's 2 losses would be at Texas, at Alabama. Notre Dame did lose a home game.
Yeah, by 1.2, and that scenario a 12-0, Texas A&M. So, I would love for Vandy to get in. I'm kind of rooting for them now, but it's gonna be tough for them to sneak in. So that
It
brings
is going to be tough.
So that brings us to Norman, Oklahoma. You got LSU and Oklahoma squaring off. 10.5 point line in this one. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Well, so my first thoughts are, if you watch this game, hide your kids. Do not let them watch this game from an offensive standpoint. Both these teams set offenses back by years, years. The over under in this game is 38, and nobody's going to bet the over. Okay, this is this game is going to be Army Navy, Iowa type, game with in the last couple of years. Maybe not Iowa this year. I don't know. The first team past 14 probably wins this game. There are two good defenses, so let me go there. There are two good defenses in this game. Both defenses have really stood up this year. I look at LSU's defense. They gave up only 20 to Alabama. Last week they gave up 150 yards. Arkansas is a really good offensive football team. Scored 30 on everybody. The only teams they really haven't got 30 on this year were Notre Dame and LSU. So again, that just speaks to LSU's defense. So I think Oklahoma's defense is ranked 11th in the country. LSU's defense is let's see here. They're 16th in scoring, giving up 18.5 points, 23rd in total yards. So again, both good defenses. Offensively, man, they're bad. LSU's offense, 344 yards a game, 103rd in the FBS. And just, you look at Oklahoma's record, and some people might think, well, they're good offensively. Well, they're 350 yards a game offense, 94th. So both these offenses are worse than 90. I'm going to go Oklahoma to win this game simply over the turnovers. The last 3 or 4 weeks, they've won the turnover margin by +2. And with Van Buren starting this game as a quarterback, as a sophomore this year, he had that turnover last week and a really bad pass that he threw over the middle, and he did not look good last week. You can beat Oklahoma with a passing game. That being said, LSU just doesn't have a passing game, and I just don't have the confidence for LSU to win this game's got to win the turnover margin. It's as simple as that. Oklahoma, I think, is +6 in their last 3 games in the turnover margin. Going into that part, those last 3 games, they were actually underwater in the turnover margin. LSU's 88th in red zone offense, just bad. When you look at it, you got to give Mateer a little bit of advantage, I guess, at quarterback, and maybe here's the one advantage that would give the advantage to Oklahoma to me. Centennia has got 800 yards receiving in the special teams of Oklahoma. No doubt, huge advantage there. We've talked about their kicker, Tate Sindall, and their punter. So that's where I think Oklahoma has the advantage. They'll probably kick 3 field goals, maybe score 1 touchdown, give them 16 points. I think LSU kicks probably 3 field goals. I think Oklahoma wins the game probably 16-9. I do think LSU will cover the 10. I don't think Oklahoma's offense is good enough to score, enough points to beat them by 10. That's just my thoughts there. But it's going to be an ugly game. First team past 14, probably the only team past 14. Give me Oklahoma 16-9. Sweet, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if LSU will score a point. It's something funky will have to have. Maybe a special teams play, a defensive touchdown, or like a turnover that we get deep in Oklahoma territory or something. I mean, LSU's offense is epically inept this season, and when you're facing a good defense, that just gets gets blown up that much more. Oklahoma's not lighting it up on offense, but I do still like Mateer. as a quarterback, and I think he's a gamer and gets stuff done. Give me Oklahoma 24-6 here. I just have no faith, not only in LSU's offensive ability as players, but the just the calling of the game and everything. I just don't think these kids have are given a good opportunity to win games because of their coaching staff in a lot of cases. So give me the Sooners 24-6, and it's going to be ugly. What are your thoughts, D-Mac?
Yeah, Sweets, did you say gamer or gambler? You don't have to answer that one. No, I'm
They
with
both
you
have
guys.
5 letters.
I don't trust LSU's offense at all in this one. I think there's a chance LSU scores a touchdown, though. I'm still leaving out hope for that. I think this is going to be a 19-10 game. I think our defense is going to bend but not break a lot. So I think 3 or 4 field goals is possible for Oklahoma. I think they're going to score a touchdown too at some point. So I could also see this being a 19-3 game, but I'm going to say we come up with, I don't know, maybe a pick six or a blocked punt where we have a chance to return it and get points. So yeah, I'm rolling Oklahoma 19-10 in this one, and they do not cover. So that brings us to Missouri, Arkansas here. Missouri is a 2.5-point favorite on the road at Arkansas. Arkansas is 0-7 in SEC play. Missouri has dropped to 3-4 in the SEC, 7-4 overall. You look at this Arkansas offense; they're top 25 in every category: overall, passing, rushing, and scoring. And then you look at their defense, and they are outside of the top 100 in every category. Their rush defense is, I guess, the brightest spot of their defense, giving up 174 yards a game on the ground at 102nd. Everything else, they're outside of the top 120. This Missouri defense has been good. A really good front seven, good corners, good safety play. They're top 20 in all facets of defense. Only giving up 19.5 points a game. Only 274 yards of total defense or total yards they're giving up on defense. Their offense is averaging about 440 yards a game. That has taken a little bit of a backseat here recently with Bo Prabula when he was out. This Arkansas team is minus 12 in the turnover margin. I love their offense at Arkansas. Taylon Green's great, but I just don't have any faith in Arkansas. It's tough for me to predict anybody going 0-8 in the SEC, but I think Missouri wins this game. I'm going to go 27-21. Missouri wins by 6 on the road. What are your thoughts, Sweets?
Yeah, this is the battle line rivalry that Mizzou has dominated since they entered the SEC. They're actually 9-2 against Arkansas since joining the SEC in 2014. So this is something that Mizzou's done is beat Arkansas. Nothing's going to change this weekend because if there's one thing that Coach Eli Drinkwitz does, it's beat teams he's supposed to beat. He is a maven at beating under 500 teams. Mizzou's going to do that again this weekend. I think Mizzou wins something like 34-21. And I think that, the sad thing about that is that Bobby Petrino is not going to get another opportunity to coach Arkansas, which I was kind of hoping for in my own sick little way for all the stories and all the fun we could have had talking about that. But he's going to take another one on the chin this weekend. Mizzou's going to bust Arkansas up. What are your thoughts, Kev?
So I guess the first thing I want to say is if they would have let Sam Pittman coach the season, would he have lost every game the rest of the season? That is exactly what Bobby Petrino has done to this point. He's not won one game. You know, when they announced him as the interim, all the Arkansas fans were excited. You know, here comes life. And he's been competitive. He's played close games, but he's not got one win. Eli Drinkowitz, for some may know this, he's from Alma, Arkansas, and this game means something to him every year. If you look over the course of this rivalry the last 4 or 5 years, when he has had the chance, he has laid it to Arkansas, including 2 years ago in Fayetteville. They beat him soundly. I like Missouri in this game. The only caution I'm going to say to this is Bo Prabula has, to me, been a disappointment once we got into the conference season. And he was really bad last week. So much that I really thought they warmed Zollers up on the sideline, and I thought they were going to put him in the game. And so I'm curious this week if Prabula struggles, if they won't go to Zollers. That being said, Arkansas's run defense, just give the ball to Hardy, you know, and again, just repeat that. Just give the ball to Hardy. Just let him run the ball. And then I think another interesting thing I'm interested to see in this game is Petrino has mentioned starting KJ Jackson, who played really well in the second half of that Texas game, the redshirt freshman quarterback, who will succeed Taylor Green there at Arkansas. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jackson start, even though it will be Green's last game in Arkansas. So, you know, Petrino may give Green the start, but Green's had a lot of turnovers this year, 11 interceptions. So, you know, look, Missouri's got the better defense, and I think it just comes down to that. You got one side of the ball that's really good there, and so I think give me Missouri in this game. Again, it'll be close. Give me Missouri 35-32 in this game. They score late to beat Arkansas with a drive that's dominated by Hardy in the running game.
Yeah, so that brings us to a battle in the Sunshine State, Florida State and Florida in the Swamp. Florida is a 1.5 point favorite, but they are 0-2 against teams in their own state this year. What are your thoughts on this one, Kevin?
Well, I said South Carolina and Clemson's the two most disappointing teams in the rivalry, and these two teams may actually be worse than that from a disappointment. This is going to be an ugly game. I mean, it just is. Florida's got 3 wins. Florida State's got 5. So Florida State does, you know, they're playing this game for a chance to win and go to a bowl game. Both the quarterbacks were highly, you know, talked about going into this season. Lagway, you know, has 13 touchdown passes, but also 13 interceptions. Castellanos, you know, he got off to a good start. He's had some interceptions late, 13 TDs, 8 interceptions. He also leads their team in rushing, 480 yards. To Jaden Ball's 904. I guess the thing that amazes me about Florida this year is they have not made Ball the prominent part of their offense. He is the best part of that offense. Again, Florida's offense, 110th in the country, 330 yards, you know, total offense, and 120 scoring, averaging under 20 points a game. Just again, bad football. And then, you know, Florida State on the other side of it, their offense, 478 yards a game, 9th in the FBS. So Florida State's been, at least they can say they've been pretty good on offense. 317 yards a game on defense. They've been, you know, solid on defense on that side. I just don't know if Florida's defense is enough. And after that loss in the Swamp last week to Florida State, I think this Florida team at this point's quit. I think they quit last week. I think they quit. I think this game means more to Norvell and Florida State. Norvell needs this win and needs a bowl game. And I think Gonzalez and Florida, they've just lost any steam that they had. They played Georgia well, and they've laid eggs since then. I like Florida State in this game. Again, I think it'll be an ugly game. Give me Florida State 24, Florida 13. Sweet, your thoughts? I know you like Castellano.
Yeah, he keeps it going. He keeps it going for Florida State, but I mean, they've just been bad this year. After starting off the way they did against Alabama, you thought that they were in it for the long haul, and it all went downhill from there. Florida's in the same boat though. I mean, these guys are averaging less than 20 points a game with DJ Lagway, who was on everybody's short list for the Heisman in the preseason, and now he's one of the bottom three quarterbacks in the SEC, along with Nuss and Arch. So that was some good QB in there by our QB picks preseason wise. I like Florida State here. They've got something to play for. Florida doesn't. Florida's playing for a coach, and kids are previewing where they're going to be able to transfer to in the portal. So, give me Florida State here, 31. No, not no no. Let's backtrack. Let's give me Florida State 24, Florida 14. So Florida State by 10. What are your thoughts here, DMAC?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I like Florida State in this one. On third down on offense, Florida State's converting 51% of the time, good for seventh. Florida is allowing teams to convert 43.4% of the time, which puts Florida at 114th. So huge advantage to the Florida State offense here if they can capitalize on third down. I have less faith, and the numbers actually support this. Have less faith in Florida's offense than LSU's offense. So give me Florida State 27-10. Big win in the swamp for them, and they get to go bowling in December. So shout out to Florida State there if they can get it done. So this brings us to our last game of the weekend here, the Iron Bowl, Alabama and Auburn. This is Auburn or Alabama is a 6.5 point favorite. As bad as Auburn has been, they can still become bowl eligible with a win over the Crimson Tide here. Alabama's offense is also not an offense or Auburn's offense is another offense I haven't been super impressed with. They're passing for about 191 yards a game. The Auburn defense, though, has been really good, giving up 94 yards on the ground, only giving up 20 points per game. And then you flip over to Alabama here, 415 yards a game, almost 300 through the air, and they're averaging 34 points a game. Their defense has also been good, only giving up about 150 yards through the air, 122 on the ground, 16 points per game. Um, you know, both teams, Auburn's a really good turnover margin team, though, at plus 11. Alabama's top 25 at plus 6. I really like Ty Simpson this year. 3,000 passing yards, 22 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. There's a lot of rumblings about, if Alabama loses this one, what happens for the future of Kalen DeBear. I'm rolling with the most unlikely pick here. I'm calling my upset of the week. I think Auburn gets it done this week to crush Alabama's playoff hopes. This is another game that always goes down to the wire. I remember a couple years ago, Jalen Milrow leading that comeback with like 17 seconds left. I think Deuce Knight has the potential to lead this one. He's going to really be able to run, really good dual threat quarterback. So give me the Auburn Tigers 27-24. Late field goal for Auburn propels them. What are your thoughts, Sweets?
Yeah, Deuce Knight brings a whole new angle to game for me. He looked great against my Mercer Bears, who I picked in the upset. So he totally blew that out of the water. I had a heck of a game though, and it was Mercer, and they're not a P4 school or whatever, but Mercer's still a decent football team. And Auburn looked great against those guys. Auburn's got everything to play for here. This is their Super Bowl. And they love for nothing more than to be the reason that Alabama didn't go to the playoff. That being said, Bama's got everything to play for. If they win the game, they probably will be in the playoff. I can't see the committee holding them out at 10-2 like they might try to do with Vanderbilt, but I could see Alabama definitely being involved. Give me Auburn here. Give me Auburn in an upset here, just to throw another wrench into the playoff and coaching pictures. Give me Auburn 20. Give me Auburn 27. Alabama 21. 27-21. Deuce Knight wins it for him in the fourth quarter. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Yeah, so Auburn's got Ashton Daniels and Knight. I think you're going to see both of them play in this game. I think Daniels will provide a little bit of the passing game, and they'll play Knight to be more of a dual threat RPO type guy in this game. Auburn's offense has been really good since Freeze has been let go. They played Vandy and scored a lot of points. So again, to me, that's another interesting thing. You put Auburn's defense. I think the way that Auburn's played the last few weeks is what we thought Auburn would be at the beginning of the season. Their skilled players on offense are really good. They have a solid kicker. Now McPherson, he's had those health scenarios, so he's not going to kick 50-yarders. 45 and in, he's solid. Talty has struggled for Bama kicking the football. And I think Simpson's pressing, if you want my honest opinion. He played really well there for a stretch. But I think he's kind of self-imposed some pressure on himself to get Bama in the playoffs. Auburn's got a good defense. I think they do enough. I mean, I'm surprised that all three of us are going to go with Auburn, but I am. I mean, I liked Auburn in this game at the beginning of the year, playing at home. I like what their offense is doing. I think they'll be able to do enough to score against Bama. And I think our scores are all pretty similar in this. I like we're all picking Auburn to get 27. I'm going to go 27-21. I don't think Alabama's field goal kicker is good enough to make one. He's struggling, whether it's a bad snap or not. So I like Auburn in this game at home. They upset Alabama, knock them out of the playoffs. DeBoer will get another year, but if he misses the playoff 2 years in a row, he automatically goes into the next season with that seat being hot. And I do think Simpson will go to the pros. He's done enough this year to do that. So could be a set up an interesting season for him next year.
So one question about this game before we move on to our Heisman game. If Auburn wins this game, is that enough for DJ Durkin to have a shot at being Auburn's next head coach? What are your thoughts, Sweets?
Yeah, I think he'll get a look. I don't think it's enough to get the job though. You can't let emotion dictate who your next coach is going to be. And I think that if he won this game, it would be more of an emotional hire than. I look at it like this: if Durkin wasn't Auburn's coach, their interim coach, would he be considered a candidate otherwise? I think the answer to that is no. So I can see it happening because that's an Auburn thing to do. But I don't think it should happen. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Well, a prerequisite to be the Auburn head coach is to have a win over Alabama. I mean, look, that's why they hired Hugh Freeze, right? So it puts him in contention. I think it comes down to if Auburn is able to get Summerall, he gets the job. If they don't get Summerall, it's wide open. And a win possibly could get Durkin the job. Again, they've made emotional decisions before, so it would not be like something that they've done. I wouldn't even be surprised. Again, we talked about the other night, Auburn does some strange things. I wouldn't even be surprised if they named Cadillac back at the head coach. So, and keep Durkin as the co-head coach and give him a big raise. Who knows what they might do. So
Maybe Bruce Pearl coaches football.
yeah, I mean, hey,
At the time.
there's no telling. And again, Jimbo's not out of the running in this one too. So Auburn fans got to hope for Summerall, or if not, it's wide ass open.
Yeah, if they miss on Summerall though, I think Durkin would be a great candidate. You talked emotional hires, a guy who wouldn't be on their radar otherwise. The LSU Tigers did that with Ed Ogeron and won a championship. The way that the players have rallied around Durkin,
Yeah.
with kind of he's got an interesting past to say the least. To see that he's still a player's coach. I would be in favor of them going with him if they miss out. Maybe not the first choice, but if they get a no or two, like instead of hiring another guy you're gonna fire in 3 years, why not? Why not make DJ Durkin that guy? So
You
this,
could just firing him one or two.
so this brings us to our Heisman draft, and I'm gonna try to share my screen here. Let's see if this pops up. It is showing up here. So I already put the draft together. Kevin, you get pick 1. Sweets, you get pick 2. I've got pick 3, and then I snake around for the first pick in the second round. So Kevin, do you want to get us started here?
I will, and this is not going to be most people's first pick, but again, I mentioned him earlier. There is the potential for him to have a really good game this weekend, and then in the SEC championship. So give me Marcel Reed first.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to go ahead and go with Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. He's got one more game this weekend, and then the possibility of having a big game in the Big Ten championship. So go ahead and put me down for Fernando Mendoza.
Okay.
DMAC, you're up for
Yeah,
2.
so I got 2 picks. I'm gonna go Julian Sayin, Ohio State, and then I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna take Diego Pavia with my second pick, Vandy. My number 1 pick though was the number 1 pick of the draft. Marcel Reed is my personal favorite. So Sweets, you're up for another pick here.
You did me dirty there. Because you knew that was my guy. I'm gonna go with Jeremiah Love. We'll bring a running back into the conversation. I'm gonna go with Jeremiah Love here. He's had a great year for Notre Dame. He could have a big game on Saturday that could propel them to a playoff berth. So give me Jeremiah Love as my second round Heisman pick here.
This is getting tough because you guys sniped me on both those last picks.
Well, I only sniped you because DMAC sniped me, so
I know. So we just got to pass that along. Oh goodness. Oh man, let's see. And I don't really like saying, and you picked him at the end of the first DMAC. I'm thinking here. Again, I like Reed first, and then Mendoza's in there. Look, give me a guy that no one is going to pick, but he's played really well the last 4 or 5 games, and his team has only got 1 loss, and they're going to finish the season with 1 loss. Give me Gunnar Stockton. And then it's me again. Go ahead.
Yeah, you again.
So I'm going to stay in the same conference. This guy will not get invited to New York, but he should get more things being talked about because when he started playing quarterback for this team, they immediately went from squeaking by teams to being really good and dominant. And he's just been outstanding, and he was outstanding on the road against Georgia. Give me Trinidad Chambliss here. And he should get consideration in New York, but he won't.
Well, you sniped me back there, Kev. I think it's my turn now, right, D-Mac?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take, give me Haynes King, dual threat guy. You know, he may end up with, you know, over, he's probably going to end up with 3,000 plus yards, including the bowl game. But, you know, he could end up with around 2,900 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards on the season. He's led Georgia Tech to what, a 9-2 record. They could be 10-2 with an upset win over Georgia. And I think if they did get an upset win over Georgia, he'd have a lot to do with that and only strengthen his case for a trip to New York. So give me Haynes King as my third Heisman pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go defense here. Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech having a heck of a season. I could see him getting an invite to New York here as a defensive guy. So that's who I'm gonna roll with here. So what we'll do is after the Heisman, we'll give like 50 points if you pick the winner, but for each guy, we'll go like 25 points. So if
I like your last pick there. Your last pick will be in the top 6 or 7.
6, yeah.
I like Chambliss better, and I can see why Sweets picked King. But when it comes to the actual invitation and stuff, they're going to take Rodriguez over those guys.
Yeah, they're it's a toss up. I can't, there's nobody who you look at and say, oh, this guy, like when Burrow won the Heisman, it was like, who the hell else you going to pick? This year there are a lot of a lot of choices that you can win and you can justify that particular guy winning it. So it'll be interesting to see who wins it. And I think that this weekend's games will have a lot to do with it. I think whoever ends up winning it is going to be somebody who showed out this Saturday. So we'll see what happens.
It's definitely still wide open. It is wide open. It is out there for a Mendoza, a Sayin, a Reed to play 2 really good games in a conference championship and get in there. It certainly is.
Yeah, and I think that's what hurts Pavia is that he's not going to he won't have that extra opportunity for to put up big games. But if he beats Tennessee and has a performance like he did against a Kentucky, I think that he would that would boost him into the top 3, if not 2, immediately.
And if these guys we're talking about, if Mendoza struggles in the Big Ten championship, if Reed struggles, if these guys are saying struggles and were to lose, to Michigan or something, Pavia could win it.
Chances are Sayin and Mendoza will face each other in the championship game. So the loser of that one will probably push themselves out of the race, and it'll be interesting. I'm there's still a lot of football to watch, for the Heisman and for the playoffs and everything else. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so that's a wrap for this week. We'll be back on Thursday with a little high school football playoff news, and then we'll make our picks of the week and break down one of these SEC or Big Ten games. And we will see you guys soon. So thanks for listening.
I had one thing I wanted to add, D-Mac. I apologize for cutting you off, but our buddy Bob jumped in again and said Reed for the win. Bob, I'm gonna go ahead and remind you, as you've watched all the episodes, there was only one of us on this forum who said at the beginning of the year Reed was going to have an unbelievable season. I'm not gonna I'll let you guess as to who it was, but he's on screen now and doesn't have a hat. What you will.
I took Marcel Reed to win the Heisman before the season started.
Did you? And all I talked about him those first few weeks, you didn't chime in with that and say, hey, I backed you. I put some money on that one. I like the I agree with you.
No, I
You
think
you were
we had
just
a
you
little
were just gonna leave
dialogue.
me out there on my own in case he played like ass.
No, I think we
Good
had
for
a
him.
little dialogue agreeing because
Did we?
he was my fantasy quarterback all year.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know. Hey, you had an opportunity to trade him for Colin Simmons and you didn't.
yeah, I think I made the right call. As good as Colin Simmons was down the stretch, but it
Yeah,
happened.
Colin Simmons did it. He will probably be the reason why somebody wins the fantasy football league if he does,
Yeah, that's a shame.
which means somebody who's in the dark right now will have to stay in the dark and live in shame.
Yeah,
Kevin.
I played them for I played them for a semifinal this past week, so it could
Yeah.
have been me going to the championship if it wasn't.
Should
for-
hey, it should have been you. Should have been you.
Should have been.
How they screwed Concepcion out of so many player of the weeks, that would have changed the whole dynamic of where you were in the playoff. You might have played somebody else, and I mean, see, that's the yellow light theory there. If I run the yellow light, how does my life change?
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in with us this week, and we'll see you guys later in the week. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, show us some love, and we'll see.